Darren, first of all, how much are you looking forward to Monday? The players back, the start of pre-season training.
I very much always look forward to pre-season training. It's actually my favourite time of the year because you're basically forgiven for running grown men into the ground. So it's good fun. It's always nice to see the players. It's obviously a little bit more settled this year in terms of who we're going to see and what we know about those individuals 12 months on. And I like spending time with this group. I've always said that, and it'll be nice to see them, the majority of them again. But all kidding aside, pre-season is for a manager it's the best time of any season. It's so enjoyable. The games are rubbish, but the flip side of it are you don't get anyone knocking on your door. Why am I not playing left wing, and why have I only played 2 games in 2 months, and mumbo jumbo like that. So it's a very nice time. It's obviously an important time for recruitment, and I'm looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it.
Will things be different now compared to your preparations for the Barnet game?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. I mean, we only, if you think about the Barnet game and its objectives, you're trying to get people fit for one game. And that's where you have to have your thinking. What you're trying to do now is get people fit for 10 months. It's a completely different objective. But I think we learned quite a lot, in the prep for the Barnet game in terms of maybe using some different strategies, using some different techniques to get people fit, maybe a bit quicker. And we are going to incorporate some of those methods that were tried out.
And how does the 3rd of October as a start date sit with you, bearing in mind the EFL starts mid-September?
I think it's the most realistic start date out of all of them. I think it's. I think they've been very clever actually, and I always try and call it as I see it, but. I think October start. I think the French and the Dutch league are starting in October as well, aren't they? If memory serves me right, in terms of when they shut down, I think they said no more football until October. So I actually think it's the most realistic. I think it gives us the greatest chance of getting some sort of fan base in the stadium, and also if there are, some difficulties in the country leading up to that time, it might give us a slightly bigger margin of error to resolve those differences and still be able to start in October. So I think they've done a good job there. I really do.
And that led me on to my next question. Are you hopeful that some fans will be allowed into Hewish Park to see the start of the season?
I'm very hopeful. Throughout the whole COVID process, lockdown, quarantine, and the release of certain measures of lockdown, I think we've all become very, very conscious of press releases, news releases, especially obviously from the government, and I think I've never been more happier than seeing the release the other day from the DCMS about steps 3 to 6 having crowds in the stadium again at 15% initially, and then obviously moving to 30%. I thought that was really, really great. I mean, that filled me with so much hope that we'll be back to kind of normality very soon. And that was a nice one to kind of hear. And it's going to save so many clubs. I mean, I'm shocked that more clubs haven't gone into administration than maybe already have. So, I think they've done as best they can there. But it certainly gives us hope that on a wilder scale, bigger scale, larger scale, that crowds will be in at a higher level soon. The strange thing is obviously the professional clubs or teams that run professionally are probably more able and able to cater for the the certain criteria that's going to be laid down in order to have fans. I think we're ready for that. But it's great to see the clubs from step 3 to 6. I've got a lot of friends that are coaches, managers, still playing at that level, and then the fact that crowds can now start to come back in a logical manner is great news for those clubs. Absolutely brilliant news for those clubs.
Very much so. Have you confirmed any pre-season fixtures yet?
Yes, we've got pretty much a full billing now that we'll release probably start of next week. We go to Stratford a week Saturday, again, which we're hoping Stratford are going to obviously open up to fans as they're a step 3 side. So we go to Stratford a week Saturday. I think the following week we're somewhere at. I know there's Taunton, there's Frome, Weston-super-Mare, clubs, Dorchester we're going back to again. So what I've tried to do is, and I said this all along, I've tried to stay in Somerset for pre-season friendlies. We're obviously behind closed doors. If we were to do anything at Hewish Park right now, the pitch is still growing from its refurb. So I'm looking forward to going around these clubs, these non-league clubs, and hopefully showing our support, because as the weeks tick on, I'm hoping we can get some Yeovil fans in the ground. Those Yeovil fans obviously not only support us whilst we're out playing, but they help support the football economy of Somerset, and that's always been my target, is to try and support Somerset and its football clubs. And I think we've gone about that a really great way. It would be very easy for us to be like some big clubs where they demand X, Y and Z for us being there, but we want to go there. We want to take as many Yeovil fans that we're able to, or the club is able to house, or to accommodate, and really support Somerset football. It's a huge county. We're very lucky to be the professional club in the county, and I think we have a duty to our neighbours, to the clubs in Somerset, to support each other. So I hope by us going there, we help them in as much as possible.
Since we last spoke, Josh Sultan's been signed on a 2-year contract. What qualities will he bring to your squad?
Well, he's a very, very intelligent footballer. I think that's what struck me when we not only watched him close up in our fixtures against Halifax, but obviously the extensive research that you're now able to do on players. He's a very, very intelligent footballer, and where I think we really fell down last year was when we had key injuries to key players, namely Wilkinson, Collins and Charlie Lee. And with Staunton not only gives us greater depth in those 3 key positions, but he gives us strength, he gives us versatility. He's a good athlete, he's good age. I know he doesn't look 24, but he's 24. I made sure I checked his passport. He's definitely 24, and he just gives us that power and that intelligence that maybe we didn't have in depth. And when they're all fit, then we're going to be a very good side, and it may allow us to be tactically a little bit more adaptive than maybe what we could have been during last season. So he's a really great signing. He gives us longevity as well, which I like. He gives us that 2 years. So again, it's another player that we get a chance to really get to know. We know what makes him tick. We know what his real positives, his real strengths and qualities are, and we've got 2 years to find out until to go through that process. So Josh was my number one out of all of them. Out of any target I had on any board or any list or any recruitment process, Josh was number one, and I really fought for him. I knew that we wouldn't be able to do too much because of our financial position, like a lot of clubs, and I wanted to make sure that whatever happened come the first game of the season, we had that strength in depth. I think when we went to Barnet first game of the season last year, we didn't have we didn't have Wilkinson. I think Dickinson was injured, so Charlie Lee wasn't at the club then, so if you look back, our experienced players really were Nelson, Collins, Diath, Murphy, Alcott, that was probably the extent of it. So we're going to definitely need to have strength, and if we're going to have to run with a smaller squad, which we are going to, we need to make sure that the fundamentals and the foundations of our team every week are strong enough to carry a 10-month campaign.
And bearing in mind finances, not just at Yeovil but in football, is your squad pretty settled now? Do you think? Do we expect many more incomings or outgoings, or is this pretty much what we're going to have heading into October?
We can't let any more go. We won't be able to fill a bench if we let any more go. I think we're at 14 at the minute, so we're very small. We are very small. We're going to have to be a smaller squad. I don't think we'll necessarily stop at 14 because we won't have enough players. That's for sure. But we are looking now into the loan market. We're very close with one loan signing from a Premier League club, but I don't think that will get confirmed until Monday. But we're very close with that. And look, we're having to be very creative. And it's actually the best thing about my management team in Terry and Darren Betcher is that whenever we're faced with these kind of situations, we're very good at creating our own market. And our market at the moment is going to be very similar to why we took Romeo Huttons and Brandon Coopers and Caleb Richards, etc. Is that we're looking now for those bigger clubs to look very favourably upon us, and we create a platform for their young players to get experience at. Now, obviously, last year we had a hugely successful example of that in Romeo Hutton, who now will 100% play in the Football League next year, maybe even at League One. And we can create that platform for their young players to get that last part of their education, their development, their academy development. So we're looking now for that type for the short term, and I'm sure when crowds and people are able to come back through the turnstiles, that we'll have a capacity to add to our squad. But right here, right now, the 14 we've got, we've added obviously Adam Smith and Josh Staunton. That's kind of where we're going to be, I think, for the short-term future.
Thank you for your time. Hope to catch up again soon. Thank you.
Top man. Thanks, mate.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, pal.
How are you?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
You talk about pre-season training and putting them through their paces. Kind of, how do you break it up from ball work as to running to to create proper fitness? What sort of how do you break it up?
There's a million and one theories on this. I mean, it's almost fashion. Getting people fit in pre-season is almost turned into fashion, in that you have fashionable methods each year in which people sell and endorse and things like that. The bog standard method of any pre-season is that they have to move a lot more than what they've been doing. You're taking people from different physical states, and you have to try and get them into a physical state in which they can have a campaign over 10 months. I've always been quite lucky because of my personality and the way I coach. I could probably get players fit, match fit, ready to go just through training normally, but that's because I'm an assertive, enthusiastic character. So the intensity of our sessions is always high, but it's not old-fashioned. If you go to Germany and you look at the techniques and strategies in Germany, they still do the cross-country run-ins. They still go through the woods and the forests and the old-fashioned things, if you like. Mourinho still does 1,000-metre runs. All of these strategies are still very, very useful and successful. And the other thing is as well with those types of methods is that there's a huge emphasis on an individual's mentality and how much they're prepared to go and how fast and how hard they expect themselves to run. And when I came in, for example, this time last year when I came in pre-season, so not this time last year, maybe 14, 15 months ago, it was heavily based on running as an individual, because I wanted to see, come December, come a bad run in form, some injuries, I wanted to see which players were ready to go through the next wall for me, who were going to run through the pain barrier, who was going to run injured, who was going to say, no, I'll be all right, I'll get out there. And I learned so much in that first week, where it was only sort of 9, 10 of us, a couple of trialists, maybe 12, and we did a lot of running, hard running, on your own, run, get through it. And let's see who really was determined. And I tell you, the one player who won every one of those early races was Carl Dickinson. And lads who were 15, 14, 13 years younger were treading water behind him. And I knew then that Carl, by hook or by crook, no matter what his state was, no matter where he was in terms of his injury or his levels physically, that he would run, and he would run through brick walls for us. So I thought that was a really useful technique last year. I don't think we need to perhaps recruit the same method for the same reason this year, because we're now down to a point where every player that returns on Monday has been chosen by me to be here Monday. So I'm not sure I really need to go through that in that way, but you can't get away from getting fit. You've got to run. Whether it's with a ball, whether it's without a ball, you've got to run. So normally in week one there's a heavy influence of running without the ball. And as you work through, you just introduce the ball a little bit more, but everyone thinks it's a real science getting people fit. Until you start playing real games, competitive games, in the league, 4 points, that's when they really start adding that match fitness in.
Do you think that the gap between the playoff game, I suppose, is the last game Yeovil played, and the start now is enough? You know, from a mental point of view, more than anything. It's been
too long. It's been, but that's not beyond anyone's control, is it? We're in the very, very unsettling hands of a pandemic. So, Monday's fine by me as long as we're able to come back and we're able to work. Football's our trade. It's the way we earn our living. So as long as we're very, very fortunate enough to be able to come back and and earn our living, that's the important thing from an individual point of view. But we've had long enough. We've had more than enough time to think about this, that, and the other. It's time now to get our trainers back on and get to work and start trying to build something again.
We know that when you did the playoff games, there was a huge protocol installed into the club that you had to have red zones and green zones and tested and all the rest of it. Is that going to maintain the same when we start the league?
Yeah, I don't think it will be the same ferocity. The principles, I think, largely will stay the same, and the kind of the framework will be very, very similar. But I don't think it will be with such intensity. Sorry. In terms of testing and things like that, I think that kind of comes down a notch or two, which it had to, because no football club would be without supporters would be able to finance a testing protocol. But there are certain measures we still have to take. We're still going to test our players Monday when they come back, because they've been away for us for a long time. We've had players that have gone abroad for holidays, been with their families in different parts of the country at different times. So we feel it's the right thing to do to test them on day one, and then we'll work towards our framework after that. But largely it's about recognising symptoms and people that are symptomatic in that moment, and then taking necessary precautions. But we were very lucky during the playoff preparation that we didn't have any of that scenario, and we were able to work pretty freely within those conditions.
Finally, from me then, on the playing side, first of all, how's Lawson Dike doing with his injury? Has he got another year, or is he out of contract?
You're like a copper, aren't you? Blimey.
I wasn't aware of it.
Jesus. Sorry, blasphemy. Sorry, I do apologise. No, Lawson's fine. Lawson's fine. He was training at A level before the playoff game against Barnet. He wasn't probably training at a level where, obviously, he wasn't training at a level where we felt he could be involved, and I think Lawson felt that as well since speaking to him. And so we're hoping just to push on now with Lawson. We're going to have to take it slowly. He's still going to need some treatment. He's still going to need certain measures to keep him out there, to keep him fit. But Lawson will be like a new signing. People forget that probably the biggest change for me was when Lawson came out of the team in how we were going to create goals again from midfield, because he's such a wonderfully creative footballer and has a technical ability that allows him to execute what he sees in his brain. So, you know, he was a big miss for us, but I've already said to Lawson, he's got a big season ahead of him. We need 40 games out of him next year. You know, he has to have 40 games. So he is here for another year. PC hopper. So, and we're glad again going back to last year when we wanted these types of people for it to be a minimum of 2 years, minimum. Because I want to learn about them and I want to be able to get the best out of them. And the longer I have them in my working domain, then the best chance I've got of getting the best out of them. So he's a good player. Lawson has a real confidence and a real mental resilience about him as well. And he's been hugely successful in his career. Hugely successful. There's a lot of promotions under his belt. So I'm looking forward to him being back out there because he played 30 minutes against Weymouth in our last game before we played in the playoffs, and he was excellent, very, very excellent. I think he came on and played right back. He was so smooth and so competent in possession. So, you know, he's a big player for us. And again, Lawson's one of those that, you know, when I talk about Charlie and Albie and having these 2 or 3 qualities, Lawson's one of them. Very different qualities, but wherever he seems to play, he has a lovely, smooth competency about him when he's in possession, and that's an important feature, important attribute to have when you play for Yeovil, because a lot of teams do come to Hewish Park and decide that they're going to just try and ruin your day by being boring.
And finally, Jimmy Smith, any chance of him coming? I mean, are you talking to him still? Or?
Blimey, you've gone to MI6 levels there, haven't you? It's like Central Intelligence now, isn't it? Jimmy, look, the club is in a very, very difficult position. It's got no cash flow. It's got no one coming through the door. So to talk about any player, Jimmy, all the other targets I like. I know there's been lots of things said about Ben Kennedy. It's very hard. It's very hard to be able to predict our financial footprint, which is why, you know, Josh Staunton was made very, very important, because if our door is closed, with Josh being our last signing, as well as Adam, of course, we need a goalie. I know everyone knows that, even you, PC Hopper. But if Josh was our only signing, we needed to know that we were going to go away from home or at home and have this strength and this physical power and intelligence that we need to be able to compete regularly over a 10-month campaign. And Josh gives us that, which we didn't have last year. What we do need to, you know, make sure that we have is we need to make sure that financially we're sound, and I completely agree with everything Scott has said to me on that. We need to make sure that we're a club that cuts its cloth, and right here, right now, regardless of any player, we cut our cloth accordingly. So hopefully things change, crowds can come back in, and we can start maybe doing some more work. But none of us are bigger than Yeovil, the football club, the entity, the organisation, the town, the team is far bigger than any player or any manager at the football club. And it's more important that we make sure that we are stable and very secure in our financial position, and going and signing players willy-nilly. I'd still like 2 or 3 of the lads that were out of contract that were with us, because they made huge input into our season last year, and I truly believe they've still got a lot to offer, even if it's from an experience point of view, and shaping the environment and things like that. But Jimmy was a very, very good for us last year. Very good, lovely lad. Love working with him. I'd love to have him here, but we have to make sure that we make these decisions right here, right now, for the benefit, the short term, security and stability of our football club, so that we can get to a point where people are flooding back through the turnstiles to watch us play. So, as always, the fans are going to be just so important, and I know I harp on and I ask a lot from them, but they're going to be the most important thing when it comes to recruitment, because when they're able to, the more we get back in the ground, the better. There's nothing like last year. We're not waiting for a change of owner. No one's got that excuse. No one's waiting for who's the manager. They ain't got that excuse. This time last year, Ray, it was from hope to trepidation when they employed Darren Sarll. Well, I'd like to think it'd be from trepidation to hope now that they've seen what we've done in year one. So there's no excuse there. I feel like we play a decent brand of football. We're not always right with it, but we're always on the front foot. We're very aggressive. So when we're able to have you all back, it's going to be so important that I try and create a winning team and a winning formula, and they get behind the lads again, because if we thought last year going down from League Two and playing in the National League was going to be a tough year, I don't think people realise yet how tough this year is going to be. It's going to be a real slog, and we're going to have to really be in this together for us to come out the other side and add to our squad.